The Matrix, released back in 1999, still doesn't feel like an old science fiction movie. In many ways, it feels more contemporary today than it ever did back then. Usually, most science fiction movies eventually become victims of time. Their visions of future looks dated, their technology becomes obsolete, and their predictions miss the mark. But The Matrix is different. Every time I watch it, I feel as the world has moved a little closer to the one imagined by the Wachowskis. So why has this film become such a cultural phenomenon? And why has it remained relevant for more than 2 decades? There are several reasons. But first, it was released in 1999, as mentioned before, and directed by Lana and Lily Wachowski. Back then, they were the Wachowski brothers. The Matrix was an enormous commercial success, grossing over $460 million worldwide against a budget of around $63 million. But more importantly, it became a cultural landmark. So the premise of the movie is simple. Thomas Anderson, a software programmer living an ordinary life, discovers that the world around him is nothing more than an elaborate computer simulation. Humanity has unknowingly become enslaved by intelligent machines, while people's minds remain trapped inside a digital reality known as the Matrix. Once Thomas Anderson, now known as Neo, awakens to the truth, he joins a small group of rebels fighting to free humanity. At first glance, it sounds like another science fiction action movie, but the thing is, it isn't. What makes The Matrix extraordinary is that every action scene, every visual effect, every philosophical discussion, and every design choice serves the same central idea. So let's start with the most obvious one: artificial intelligence. Now, back in 1999, AI belonged almost entirely to science fiction. Intelligent machines taking over humanity felt like a distant fantasy. Well, today, AI writes essays, creates music, generates realistic videos, helps doctors diagnose disease, and increasingly assists programmers in writing software. We are still far from the sentient machines ruling the planet, but for the first time, society is seriously debating the implications of artificial intelligence. Watching The Matrix today therefore feels strangely different. The machines are no longer just movie villains. They represent our growing dependence on the system that increasingly make decisions, generate information, and shape our perception of reality. The film wasn't predicting artificial intelligence or image generators. Yes, it was asking more fundamental questions. What happens when the systems we build become so sophisticated that we stop questioning them? The question has never felt more relevant. Now let's talk about the style of the movie. Now, very few films create a visual identity that survives decades without becoming dated. The Matrix somehow managed exactly that. Neo's long black coat, Morpheus' perfectly tailored suit, Trinity's leather outfit, the minimalist sunglasses, the green digital cascade of the Matrix itself. The contrast between the cold, perfectly ordered simulation and the dirty mechanical reality outside. Every frame looks intentional. Nothing feels accidental. Even today, countless films, video games, fashion campaigns, and music videos continue to borrow elements introduced by The Matrix. The costumes are iconic, not simply because they look cool, but because they communicate something deeper. Every character appears almost too perfect inside The Matrix, reflecting the artificial nature of the world they inhabit. The style isn't decoration, but it tells a story before it even speaks. One aspect that fascinates me personally is the way The Matrix treats reality as software. Rather than portraying cyberspace as vague movie magic, the Wachowskis imagine reality itself as an information system governed by rules. Programs have purposes. Agents are security softwares protecting the system. Humans can exploit vulnerabilities once they understand the underlying architecture. Neo doesn't become powerful because of his physical strength. He becomes powerful because he begins to understand the code beneath reality itself. Even the famous training sequence follows this logic. Instead of spending years learning martial arts, skills are simply uploaded directly into the brain. "I know Kung Fu" is one of the most memorable lines in the films because it presents knowledge as software that can be installed almost instantly. Today, as brain-computer interfaces, neural implants and AI-assisted learning continue to evolve, these ideas feel considerably less impossible than it did back in 1999. What makes it so effective is that the software architecture isn't just a backdrop for the action, it is the foundation upon which the entire story is built. The action scenes exist because of the rules of simulation. The philosophical questions arise because the reality itself is programmable. The world feels internally consistent because everything follows the same underlying logic. So now let's talk about the visual effects. It's almost impossible to overstate how revolutionary the visual effects were. The famous bullet time effects, where the camera appears to move around a nearly frozen subject, had never been used on this scale before. It combined dozens of still cameras with computer-generated interpolations to create an image audiences had literally never seen before. But what makes the effects remarkable isn't simply the technical achievement. These effects are meaningful. They serve the story. Characters dodge bullets because the laws of physics inside the Matrix are flexible. Buildings bend because of reality itself is cold. Impossible movements become visual evidence that this world is artificial. The special effects aren't there to impress us, they're there to reinforce the central idea of the film. So finally, let's speak about the philosophical theme. Most philosophical movies for The Matrix stops at Plato's allegory of the cave. Now the comparison is obvious. Like the prisoners watching the shadows on the cave wall, humanity mistake illusion for reality. But Neo escapes that illusion and discovers the truth. I think The Matrix goes a little further than this. The movie asks a question that becomes increasingly uncomfortable in the digital age. If every experience you have is processed by your brain, what ultimately defines reality? Indeed, your senses can be manipulated perfectly. Memories can be altered. Emotions can be fake. What makes one experience more real than another? The film never offers an easy answer, and perhaps that's precisely why it continues to resonate. Because every technological step we take, virtual reality, artificial intelligence, deep fakes, social media, augmented reality, it forces us to revisit the same questions. So that's why I don't think The Matrix is simply a brilliant science fiction film. It is a film about the relationship between humanity and technology, about information, perception, and control. Ultimately, it's about freedom. And remarkably, those themes have become even more relevant than they were when the audiences first watched Neo choose between the red pill and the blue pill. All these years later, perhaps the greatest achievement of The Matrix isn't that it predicts the future, it's that the future keeps making The Matrix feel more believable. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, give it a like, subscribe to the channel to see more great videos. Thank you.